this is long-term for us. So if we're investing long-term, we want to make sure that we don't kind of think like, oh, well, in case of an emergency, I'll just pull that money out. It's like, no, this is part of our long-term goal. So we have to make sure that buffer's there.
Yeah, a good reminder that you only lose money when you sell with investing. So make sure you don't put yourself in a position where you need to sell, especially when it's the bank's money and not yours. Hello and welcome back to the Get Rich Slow Club podcast. I'm Tash and I'm here with Anna and we are doing part 2 of debt recycling. So if you haven't listened to part 1 of debt recycling and you don't know what it is, go listen to that first. But today we're going to be talking all about Anna's journey and why she decided to do this thing called debt recycling, or I'm going to rebrand it as legal money laundering.
Yeah, legal money laundering. Anyhow, we've been talking about this for a while. I think I've been talking about wanting to debt recycle for
like the whole time I've known you.
Yeah, for ages, since my partner and I bought our house. So this was something that we were looking into because we wanted to debt recycle for a while because a while ago, so let's backtrack. We bought a house, and at the time I had a rental property in Canada. Mm-hmm. And eventually I ended up selling that rental property. And so I took that money and put it in our offset, and it sat in our offset for a long time, which was fantastic because interest rates were really high, or higher, I should say, right? So it made a lot of sense. We were saving money that way on our interest. And then it came to a point where we said, hey, we'll continue to keep saving money. And when we hit a specific percentage in the offset, then we're going to debt recycle. And we were getting closer and closer. And I was just like, I just want to pull the plug on this. So we were talking about it for a while and my partner still kind of wanted to save a bit more, but I was like, I'm just going to start talking to our old broker and
Didn't your partner do a whole spreadsheet about the optimal time to do it?
Yes. Yeah. So he went into Reddit. Reddit has like a whole bunch of awesome people doing this kind of stuff, but we ran the numbers and based on where the interest was at. So I think we were somewhere around 6.20, 6.18 or something was our interest rate on our home loan. We kind of ran the numbers and we're like, if we kind of still keep saving money and leave our money in the offset for at least another 2 years, like we kind of ran the numbers on these different scenarios that made the most sense. And then to kind of invest our money. Well, that's what I wanted to do. I was like, I want to invest our money. I don't think either of us wanted to purchase another property.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever discuss it?
We did, yeah. And actually we discussed it quite a bit when we were like, I think we're going to debt recycle. We're going to talk to the broker. And the situation at hand was like, we had quite a big chunk of money in the offset. And that's because I sold this other property. So the option was there to buy property, to invest, like there's a couple options there. And we discussed like what we wanted to do, but because we have 2 small kids, we were like, we want to reduce our stress as much as possible. Mm-hmm. The thought of like looking at properties or even just getting a buyer's agent, we were just like, that is just another person that you need to juggle. Then the stamp duty, the costs around that, then having someone manage it. Like those are so many costs, which obviously that's the point of doing business. But it's just like, we were like, I don't think we want to do it.
If you wanted to reduce stress, why did you debt recycle and not just invest the money straight from the offset into shares?
Yeah, great question. Because there's a tax advantage. Mm-hmm. That's honestly what it comes down to. So we could have done that. We could have just been like, hey, we're just going to take this money out and invest it. But then the flip side is like, if you're going to invest it anyways, it makes sense mathematically when you run the numbers to actually debt recycle.
Especially as interest rates are dropping.
Yes. And that was kind of the trade-off. Like as interest rates have kind of dropped over the last little while, that's where it kind of came into play. It's like, we were saving a lot of money because we had money in the offset, but now that interest rates are getting lower and lower, potentially we can make more in the share market. Now, none of this is guaranteed. We have no clue, but it makes more sense. And so we talked a lot about property. And in fact, we could have potentially bought a smaller property and also debt recycled. You know, there was a possibility there. And we ran like, again, we were like, we would still have to do the same thing. You'd still have to get a buyer's agent. You'd still have to figure out where you want to invest. And we were just like, we just don't have the bandwidth right now. Maybe if the kids were older and we had a little bit more like sleep, we could do that. But neither of us really had the appetite for it right now. I don't know. And the thing is, I think like when you are building your wealth journey, if you want to build more wealth rapidly, often it makes way more sense to buy property because you have leverage. Now that this isn't always guaranteed.
But then you have leverage now with your debt recycling.
You do. Yes. You do. So that was kind of the trade-off, right? But also if we bought a property, then if you kind of paid that off and you wanted to negative gear it, it makes more sense to then buy another property and keep going with that. So you're negative gearing by buying more properties to reduce your taxable income as an individual. And we were like, do we want to own multiple properties? And there's the ethical side of it, but like, frankly, we just didn't want to have a lot of properties under our belt.
No more emails.
No more emails.
Yes.
Like, no, there's a leak. There's this, there's that.
Leak. Yes.
But the other side is that we want to retire within 10 years, if not sooner. And in order to buy multiple properties, then you have to start selling them down as well, potentially.
Yes, because properties are usually better at capital growth and not as much for income, because properties come with a lot of holding costs often as well. Whereas shares, you buy the shares, you usually, unless you're debt recycling or you have a loan, you don't need to actually pay anything to the shares. They're not asking you to hire a plumber or whatever else. You just get paid your dividends, hopefully.
Exactly. And so the flip side of it was, if we were younger, if we were much younger, if we were in our 20s, maybe we would buy property. But because we're in our 40s, although my
I love the hesitation.
40s, I know. Well, the other thing is like my partner's not in his 40s.
Oh, not yet.
Yeah.
We're in our, what do you even call it? Because I was going to say like midlife, but that's not even fun either.
Midlife is horrible. In our, oh my gosh, my partner's in his 30s.
30-something, 40-something.
Late 30s, early 40s.
In our millennial era.
Oh, yeah. I'm still a millennial. Oh my gosh. Anyways, yeah. You have to think about things differently as you're later in life, right?
Yeah.
If you have a longer time horizon again, then maybe housing was the right choice for us. But right now we're like, nah, if we want to tap out earlier, we don't want to have like a whole portfolio of properties and then have to figure out how to sell them down, because then there's the capital gains on that. You're going to have to figure out what year you're selling it down, because it's not like you're selling down 50K, you're selling like 500 to $1 million depending on your property, right? Like,
yeah, and properties are so expensive at the moment. There's no real way to be like, I'm just going to borrow $100,000 and buy a property.
Yeah.
But at least with debt recycling, you can tailor it to exactly where you are in your life. Like if you only want to take on $50,000 or if you want to take on $300,000, like it's completely up to you. Whereas these days with stamp duty and buyer's agent fees, like I think my stamp duty was $30-something thousand and my buyer's agent was $14,000. So
40?
14.
14.
So that's, $44,000 I spent just in like that stage of it. But then there's
just
also
to have a property.
Yeah. And then there's also like the solicitor, all of those kind of people as well, the building and pest inspection, like so much stuff. Whereas yours is like, yeah, cool. I just bought my shares.
Yeah. Well, that was the big thing, because we kind of ran the numbers like, oh, maybe it's good to diversify. Not saying that shares is not diversifying, but we're like, maybe we buy a smaller property if we can find something and debt recycle. We were like, you still have to do the same amount of work, whether that property is 500K or, 500K, 1,500K.
I've been listening to the Property Couch.
Yes.
And I really have enjoyed their like safer kind of take on property.
Ben and Bryce.
Yeah. But something they were saying that I had never really thought about was that point. They had a horror story of someone who'd bought 8 units in Townsville.
Oh.
Yeah. And they were like, that's all well and good, but like a hot water heater usually costs the same to replace, whether it's a $2 million house or a $200,000 unit. So if you've got 8 hot like water heaters to replace, that's a lot of extra money that we're not really considering. And that was a really good point.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It is. And because I've owned property before, right? Like I lived in that apartment in Vancouver. I was a landlord to people. Like I know how much work goes into maintaining a property, even if you have great tenants, even if you have nothing wrong with that property. And it was just like, we just don't think we
don't have time.
We just don't want to deal with it right now in our life. And that was the decision. So that made the decision between property and investing easier. And I think like deep down, we both were like, we want to invest. Like we both felt comfortable with it. We both have our own portfolios, our own separate investments. So this was actually the first time that we would invest together.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Well, our house was our first investment together. We actually even after, I think I've mentioned this before, but we had kids and still had very separate finances. And it was only like when we had bought a house, we're like, well, it makes more sense to kind of have them a little bit more intermingled, but we still have own separate bank accounts. We have separate investments. And so debt recycling was the first time that we invested together in both our names. So that's a new development.
So many more questions for a different episode about partner finances.
Yeah, we can talk about that later.
Yeah. I know that you were more keen than your partner initially. Like you were like, I'm ready and I want to do this now. And he was like, oh no, let's wait a little bit, and based on his spreadsheet or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. How did you finally meet in the middle and decide to do it now?
Yeah. So we had a specific number or a specific percentage that we wanted to save to, right?
Did you agree with that the whole time, or you were like, oh, I want to do it sooner?
I wanted to do it sooner. Like I was ready to go as soon as I think like I sold that Canadian property. Like I was like, oh, I think we could do it now. But this is why it's so good to have like different points of view. I'm probably a little less risk adverse, like I'm willing to take more risk. But the flip side is like, I'm working part-time. My partner's working full-time. We have small kids, you know.
You both work kind of in the same industry. I know that's a bit of a topic of conversation around potential layoffs at the moment.
For sure. Yeah. We both work in tech. You know, childcare costs are expensive. So having him as the voice of reason, being like, what if one of us loses our job? We need a buffer. What if, you know, we both get let go? And it's just so happened that like that week, there were some redundancies that were happening at work, at both of our jobs. And we, you know, having that kind of conversation is like, whoa, like we really, if we're not looking out for ourselves, no one else will. But also that was kind of then also the catalyst. Like we're like, our money is sitting here, which is great because it is reducing our interest, but it is not building wealth for us. It is not compounding for us. So I think that was kind of the kick in the butt that we both needed to be like, maybe we're being a little bit too conservative and maybe we do need to think about our future because it's not just us. We have 2 little humans we have to look after. So yes, we want to retire early, but you know, what if one of us gets let go or what happens? So yes, we have a bit of a buffer, but let's also build our wealth. And how do we best do that? That is like not that stressful and so forth.
Can you live off one of your salaries if the other one lost their job?
Yeah, it'd be like
you could.
Yeah, we'd have to change some of our stuff. Like I think right now we live we've always made sure, even with buying our property and even just like our finances, to ensure that we can kind of live the lifestyle that we want. So we were both very, very frugal, I think, before getting together in terms of the life we had. And now we have like a life that we feel comfortable, you know, like.
And it's still quite frugal sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, it's the trade-off, right? Like we've talked about this. Like I do love going to a nice fancy restaurant. Do we do it all the time? No, we like rarely do it. But when we do, I don't feel bad about paying for that because I know I do it so infrequently.
What percentage did you... Like I know you had money in your offset. What percentage of that did you leave in the offset and what percentage of that did you take out?
Yes.
Without going into specific numbers, it'd be great to know like what kind of buffer you've left behind.
Yeah. So I think it was around, let me think. I think we took out, let's say around 40%.
Oh, okay. Less than half. Oh.
Like maybe just like maybe it was, no, I think we left 40%. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
So you still left a solid amount in your offset.
Yes.
For your emergency fund.
And the reason for that is exactly that. Emergency fund. I work part-time, so I'm not working full-time. You know, our kids are small. Like all of those things are really important to us. And we didn't want to be in a situation if we lost our jobs that we're like, oh, now the money that we invested, we need to sell that and take that back out. Like this is long-term for us. So if we're investing long-term, we want to make sure that we don't kind of think like, oh, well, in case of an emergency, I'll just pull that money out. It's like, no, this is part of our long-term goal. So we have to make sure that buffer's there.
Yeah. A good reminder that you only lose money when you sell with investing. So make sure you don't put yourself in a position where you need to sell, especially when it's the bank's money and not yours.
Yeah. So then I guess the next step was we talked to a broker, and this broker kind of ran the different numbers of like if we had a property or investment. So we've already had this conversation, but we also talked to a friend who's a buyer's agent, and it kind of solidified that no, we don't want to deal with
more property.
Yeah. So it was nice to have like a few of those checks. Like deep down we felt that way, but then also talking to the broker and then talking to a buyer's agent. Because sometimes I was like, oh, maybe it would be nice to have another, like, I don't know, you know, you kind of
I feel like there's a lot of FOMO at the moment with property. Like it's been insane in the media the last, like forever, but the last year or so, even the last like 3 months, there's been so much media around house prices are going up. If you don't get in now, too late, you're never going to be able to get in. Like it feels very FOMO-like with property, but with shares, it's like you always know that you can buy an ETF. Mm-hmm. There's not this limit of like, oh no, that's it. But property, you buy one, multiple people can't buy the same property really.
And there's not enough conversations around buying the wrong property.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's a lot of people who have bought the wrong time, the wrong place.
Bought in some random regional area. Yeah.
Or they have to sell it because they're going through a divorce or a situation where they're like, oh, I actually have to sell. Like
I've seen a lot of conversations on TikTok actually around people who stretch themselves to buy during COVID or in the last few years. Interest rates shot up. They really struggled to pay it off and then they ended up selling it and either only just breaking even or losing money because they bought an apartment or something that wasn't very popular and they got FOMO and they tried to get in too quickly. So there's almost this like wave of people coming out and being like, wow, that was really hard and it wasn't worth it.
Yeah. And if it scars you as your first property, chances are you don't want to do it again for a really long time.
Yeah, because then it's hard to do it the second time because you don't get the first home buyer benefits. You can't get the first home guarantee scheme and all that stuff. So you're kind of competing with people who also have assets, but you are kind of starting again, which is really challenging.
Because you have to actually run the numbers too. It's like stamp duty, all of these fees, agent fees, all of that stuff. It's like people don't think of that. They just look at the capital gain. Like, what did you buy it for? What did you sell it for? But what are all the other dollars that you spent on that? You know,
how many other hours did you waste?
Yes. So yeah, anyways, back and forth on the property thing. Investing was what we chose. Our broker then went and came back with a couple of different banks that are willing. Based on that, he was like, this bank will not. You know, a lot of banks don't like.
Which banks were friendly with it?
Macquarie.
Macquarie's I've heard is quite good.
Yeah, Bankwest. There was a few of them that kind of came back.
Bankwest is who one of my home loans is with because they were nicer with business income.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah. So there was a couple of them, and then the interest rates were slightly different. So if we swapped to another bank, we also would have to swap our house loan. So you can't do like a half split loan. You can't do, you know, an investment loan somewhere else and your house loan somewhere else.
What was the interest rate difference between your home and the investment loan?
So the home loan is 5.34 and the investment loan is 5.74.
They both feel good.
Yeah,
I feel like anything under 6 feels good these days, but I guess they're still coming down.
Yeah, hopefully. So obviously the investment loan is a little bit more, and then
did you have to move banks for your original loan as well?
No.
You ended up staying with the current one?
I ended up staying with the current one because the numbers were just so close. Like it was not worth it to do all the paperwork to pay out of a loan because you'd still have to pay like a fee to break the home loan. Yeah, I can't believe you have
to pay fees to exit even on variable. More scams in the world.
Yeah, a lot of dodgy.
Exit fees should not be a thing.
Dodgy financial things that need to change. So at the end of the day, it made sense to just stay with the bank that I was with because it was still manageable. So that was great. Less paperwork, less like stress, just made it happen. And then we communicated to our broker exactly what we wanted, how we needed the loan. And then it was a matter of waiting and got an email saying, you've been approved. Your investment loan is approved. And then I logged into the bank and what they did was essentially just open a new loan.
Yay. So it's just there and you can just take it out.
No, they did it wrong.
Ah.
Okay, so what we wanted them to do, let's clarify, is I wanted them to take money out of our offset, pay down our loan, and then open a new loan with that. Mm-hmm. But what they did is just open a new loan. So the money wasn't like paid down. So they did it.
So you had 100 grand more or whatever it was, an extra debt that you didn't want.
They just kind of confused it. And so it wouldn't have been a clean loan. And so we wanted a clean split loan. Yeah, so that was kind of confusing because they kind of moved the money instead of paying off our debt and pulling it out because that's kind of what you need to do.
Did you go to the bank or your broker to fix it?
Yeah, I called the broker and was like, just so you know. And he was like, no, the notes. So he called the bank and rectified it. And then they actually did do that. They pulled the money out of the offset and paid it off. But it was a moment where had I not known better, I would have maybe been like,
oh, it's done.
Okay, cool. It's done.
Yeah.
I can go and invest that. But that's actually not the case.
How did you feel investing all of that money? I'm assuming you bought shares with it.
Yes.
Did you put it all in on the same day?
Great question.
And how did you time that?
Great question. Because this was another huge conversation that my partner and I had. We were like, do we want to lump sum invest? Do we want a dollar cost average? What do you want to do? So for anyone who's new to this, usually holistically, lump sum investing makes the most sense because you have a large amount of money, you put it in.
Statistically, it's like 9 times out of 10, lump sum is better.
Yes.
Because you're more likely to have like the money grow quicker by having it all invested rather than leaving a lot of it out of the market and trying to dollar cost average it in.
Yeah.
Yes.
But the reason dollar cost averaging is so exciting and people do it is because that's like you have money come in, you invest it. You have money, like you get paid, you invest it.
And you try and spread the risk in case there's a big drop or a big hike one of the days.
So so that was a conversation like, do we want to lump sum that money in? And the reason that you would want to so I'm just going to name, like, let's say it's $100,000. Like it's a large amount of money. Do you want to put that all in or do you want to do, 10K at a time? And for some people that's like super stressful because what if the market drops?
Can you even transfer that much money? I feel like there's so many limits on bank apps as well.
Yeah, this is a great question. I had to call the bank and let them know. And then I had to call their other specialty line. And essentially I had to do it from that end.
Yeah.
So then I eventually I just kind of transferred it straight to Perler and then invested it from there. But
did you make a new brokerage account?
I did.
Yes.
Yeah, because we made a joint account.
Oh.
So that was new. That was
fun.
Yay.
So you lump summed it.
Yeah, we lump summed it because we just, both of us have lump sum amounts in the past. And so we both felt comfortable. This was a larger amount than both of us have lump summed before. Sum, this sounds so funny. That we've lump summed before. But we both have been in the, like, you know, I've been investing for 10 plus years. Like, I know what markets do. Now, with what's happening in the US, we're like, wouldn't it be really great if we put this money in and then tomorrow it just totally tanked?
Yes.
But we know that our horizon's like 10 years plus. So if that's the case, then
it'll fix itself.
But it is like devastating seeing that. Seeing your money. Yeah, so we lump summed, but we both wanted different ETFs.
Oh.
So here's another part of that. So
did you do half and half?
We did.
Nice.
I went ethical because I just feel better being able to choose that. Well, it was funny because we were trying to convince each other. And we're like, why are we trying to convince each other? Let's just
do it. Both of them.
Let's just do both of them. And so, yes, there's a lot of overlap. But yeah, we were like, okay, fine. So we just split it straight in half and invested both in the exact same day in 2 different ETFs. And
amazing.
That was that.
You're good to go.
We were good to go. And then it was funny because I don't usually like look at my investments every day, but it was fun being like, oh my God, we're down, whatever, X percent. Oh, now we're up, whatever percent. My partner's like, just stop. What are you doing?
I'm excited.
You know how this works, right?
Yeah.
You know how this works. But it feels good. I think it's a larger amount. You kind of lump sum and you just know what you're doing because I've been investing before. So I know what to expect.
So this isn't a beginner strategy. This is for someone who has actually invested before, they're comfortable with investing and they're finding a strategy to invest more.
Yeah. And frankly, like, it's great to have a tax advantage kind of situation in this way. So that was the added benefit. So
amazing.
That was my journey.
So exciting. I feel like we've been building up to this for months.
I know. I've been like talking about it forever. And now I'm like, yes,
it's
finally.
Arrived. Yay for doing the thing.
Yeah. So we'll see. And I guess it'll be interesting to see what our next kind of goal is. And I think that is to continue to save in our offset and then hit a specific amount again. Mm-hmm. And maybe, in a while we will debt recycle that again. Because I know a lot of people will debt recycle their whole home loan.
Yeah.
So that might be our strategy. I think we're just going to double down on that for right now because property doesn't seem like something that we want to invest in. And as you know, like, to build wealth, you need to buy assets. So what kind of assets are you going to buy? Are you going to buy businesses or property? And this is what we've doubled down on. So I'll keep you posted.
Fun, exciting.
Thanks so much for joining us. If you found this episode helpful, please rate us 5 stars, write a review, or share with a friend. If you're new to investing, make sure to listen to our first 10 episodes. Follow us at Get Rich Slow Club or Tash at Tash Invest or me at Ana Cristina.
The Get Rich Slow Club podcast is a collaboration between Tash Etchman from Tash Invest and Ana Cristina from Perla. Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to investing. So make sure you check out our financial services guides and read the product disclosure statement and target market determination for any investments you're considering. See our show notes for more info. Any advice is general and does not consider your financial situation, needs, or objectives, so consider whether it's appropriate for you. This show was brought to you by Natasha Etchman, who is an authorized representative 1299881 of Guideway Financial Services, AFSL 420367, and Perla, who is an authorized representative 1281540 of Sanlam Private Wealth, AFSL 337927. The Get Rich Slow Club acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land we record on. From coast to coast, across land, waters, and communities, we pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging.